So back in November 2013, I was recently demoted from being a business analyst and a manager of a bunch of real-time analysts for a call center for a local online college. I got demoted. I got put back into a student finance role where I was a lead, and I was in charge of, helping people get student finance for college and keeping their debt under control and things like that. Well, I liked that job, but it just kind of seemed like it wasn't exactly where I wanted to be. So I started looking for a job. I got my LinkedIn polished up. I worked on my application. I went ahead and put out my feelers, put out some intent, some notices. Hey guys, help me out. Let me find a job. So I got with a few people. Am I back on? I'm gonna start this from the beginning because it seems to have some internet connection issues. So let's see if we can just start this back from the beginning here. So back end of 2013, I was an RTA. I was the manager of a whole real-time analyst team for a local online college. I was doing well. I did excelled at my job. I did a really good job. Well, they closed that position down. They put me back into student finance at the college. Not somewhere I wanted to be. I mean, I excelled at that job. I excelled at pretty much everything I do. Um, but I didn't want to be there. So I started looking for a job. So I put out, I polished up my resume, got my LinkedIn, got all my networking going on. I started getting interviews. Once I got the interviews, jumped through those, no guess, and then I started getting offer letters. Well, what are the requirements? What do I have to do to accept this job? I like this job. I like the money. What do I have to do? What kind of work will I be doing? Well, once I found that out, other than qualifications, what do you have to do? Pass a background check. Not a problem. I can pass a background check. What else do you have to do? Pass a drug test. Okay, that seems normal. Seems fair. Everybody has to pass a background check and a drug test. How hard is that, right? I want my job. That's what I have to do. I want my money. Put my money in my pocket. Pay my bills. Got to pass the background check. Got to pass the drug test. Got to have the qualifications. I'm good with that. So all of that happened. Passed my background check. Passed my drug test. Took the job. Life is going good. Agree with me if you think it sounds fair that we actually pass background checks and pass drug tests to be able to get jobs. We want money. We have to work in a safe environment. We have to portray the right attitude, the right appearance. We have to show up every day. We have to do everything. Those are the requirements of getting the job. Well, I passed mine. I got my job. I now work for a Fortune 13 company. Question: what happens if we don't work? What do we do? How do we pay our bills? How do we get the roof over our head? How do we get gas in the tank? How do we get food in our stomachs? Well, we're going to have to depend on either getting a job. Well, if we don't have a job, what's the other option? We'll be on the welfare system. According to StraightBang.com, there's 12.8 million people on the welfare system today. Now, that's everywhere from somebody getting food stamps, somebody getting temporary, or called TANF, temporary aid for needy families, and then housing assistance. Everyone can probably agree here that welfare is a depressing place to be. Welfare is dependent on other people. You're not self-sufficient. If you were self-sufficient, you wouldn't require to be on welfare. You'd be able to handle your own, taking care of yourself. So, unfortunately, it is a temporary problem. I shouldn't say unfortunately. It is a temporary problem. The welfare system is designed to pull people back up out of poverty and get them back on their feet. The problem is people who are on welfare and unemployed for more than 6 months, they show a high correlation of depression, drug abuse, and a revolving cycle of not being able to get out of that. So, welfare is caused by a bunch of things. One could be a natural disaster, Hurricane Katrina, Colorado wildfires. Could be caused by divorce, regular downsizing of companies causing unemployment, or other what they call external factors. We could probably all agree that, based on that stuff, welfare is easy to get into. It's easy to have to be reliant on welfare with all the things that are going on in this country. But who really wants to be there? Nobody, right? Welfare has been around for a very long time, and in 1996 they passed the Personal Responsibility and Work Opportunity Reconciliation Act. It's perhaps the most important element in the reform of the welfare system, and they put in one very important rule. It's Rule 407. Every able-bodied person eligible for welfare assistance has to work, look for work, or train for work. Seems normal, seems fair. If you want to be on the welfare system, those are some of the requirements. Now, today, this discussion is going to be about should we drug test welfare candidates and recipients. This is a sticky situation because there's a lot of people involved here, but the welfare recipients and candidates, I believe, and I'm hoping to convince you, should also be drug tested. I show up to work every day. I had to go and apply for a job. I had to take a drug test so that I could keep my money coming in. I'm a taxpayer. You're likely a taxpayer. You pay to support the systems. Why shouldn't the people who receive our money, who are required to work, required to look for work, accept work if it's offered, or train for work, also be required to drug test? We've already talked about welfare as a horrible place to be. Everydayhealth.com shows or reports that there's a high correlation between depression associated with drug abuse. There's clearly evidence there's a correlation between the ability to work, depression, and drug abuse. Why would we drug test? What's the objective of welfare? The objective of welfare, okay, why would we drug test welfare recipients? What's the objective of welfare? It is a short-term assistance to help pull families from poverty, train or retrain to get back to work. If you can't work, or if you can't pass a drug test, you can't work. If you can't wake up to go to an 8 o'clock interview because you've been up all night on a bender, you can't work. You can't safely train to go to work if your hands are twitching because you're using drugs. Or if you can't see things that are going on around you. If you're not cognitive, you're not safe to be at work. You can't accept work because the day that you get an interview and then told to go take a drug test is not the day you should be trying to figure out if I'm going to be clean. How do I get clean today? I've got 4 hours before I have to go do a drug test, and I was up all night cranking out some heroin. You cannot do that. Another thing is that if we drug test the applicants, we can find applicants who are willing to get help but may be caught in a vicious cycle of needing help and just don't have anywhere to look. Seems logical, right? Seems fair. Just the other day, April 29th, 2014, Governor Deal of Georgia signed into act that welfare recipients will remain eligible or can possibly be drug tested. He put into two things here, though, that I think are very important. He says that we're balancing two competing forces. One is the right of the individual, if they qualify to be given welfare, and the other hand is the right of the taxpayer not to be putting money into the hands of those abusing drugs. So there's two social issues here that they're trying to weigh out. However, he says that it is legal now for the applicant to be getting drug tested. Excuse me. So, who's going to pay for all of this? Should the taxpayers pay? I don't believe so. I don't believe the taxpayers should have to pay. I don't want to create new taxes. I don't want to draw from current funds. I want the applicant to pay. The applicant's going to be getting money anyway. If the applicant is willing to pay, these drug tests are not very expensive. We can spread the cost. Let's say it's $100 a drug test at a local clinic. We can spread that cost over the first 4 months. That's $25 a month of their payments they can use to do this. It's kind of an application fee. Those who know that they're not going to pass might not apply. Well, right there we're saving thousands of dollars a year just on those who know they're not going to apply because they won't pass. Eventually this just saves us all money. How do we select who's going to get drug tested? What do we do for this? Well, not everybody is going to get drug tested. If you're working, you actually already meet the requirements of keeping a job. So you probably either A, aren't in a place that's going to drug test you, or B, just don't need to be drug tested for a new job. You have a job. If you're on SSI, have the person have them drug tested when they do their blood work for recertification if they need it, or just at recertification. If you're able to work and you're not working, you have not secured a job, then you should be drug tested as an applicant, as an ongoing candidate. You need to be available to take work. The object is to get you up out of welfare, to get you back into success, get you out of poverty, and change your family tree. If you have a problem with drugs, get help. Welfare system is able to help. But you need to be drug tested, or those people need to be drug tested to be able to get to the next step. There's no sense in me, taxpayer, you, taxpayer, everyone around us paying and putting money into the hands of people who are basically committing crimes. Drug use is a federal crime. Drug possession is a federal crime. Regardless of local law, it is still a federal crime. Now, let's recap a little bit here. We have to maintain our jobs and keep money coming in. We have to drug test. I had to take a drug test. You'll likely have to take a drug test. My kids have to take drug tests for sports physicals. Drug test. We have to maintain the ability to show up to work every day. If you're on a bender, you can't wake up in the morning to get to work because you're on drugs, you're going to end up back in the system, back in the welfare cycle. I need help. I can't go to work. I can't do things without being high. I can't do it. That is not good. We have to be safe when we're working. Liabilities. Liability to the company. Liability to the government. There's no sense in paying you to be on welfare or paying the individual to be on welfare if all they're going to do is keep perpetuating the cycle. Welfare recipients have the requirement to look for work, accept work, and train for work. You cannot do that if you cannot pass a drug test. Welfare is meant to be temporary. Unemployment is almost as long as the cap for welfare. Keep that in mind. You have to be able to accept work and pull yourself up out of repression, up out of the system. Drug abuse will keep you in the welfare system by keeping that circle going. And to end it all, drug abuse is a federal crime. You cannot be a criminal while receiving public assistance. I believe we should drug test welfare recipients. I believe we should get them the help they want or need, and maybe they won't even apply if they think that they can't pass the test to begin with. Personal responsibility, being able to receive funds from the taxpayer. The taxpayer has to pass a drug test to keep their job, to keep their income coming in. We should also require the same of our welfare recipients. That's my time for tonight. Do you have any questions? Okay, you guys have a great night. We'll talk to you again.